The somber quiet of my father's funeral was shattered by the sharp click of designer heels against marble. My stepmother Victoria strode down the church aisle, waving a document like a battle flag. "Before we continue with this lovely service," she announced, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I have something to share. David made some changes to his will just last week. Everything, the house, the business, all assets, goes to me." The assembled mourners gasped. My grandmother clutched her chest. My uncle Robert half rose from his pew, fury on his face. But I remained calm, thinking of the USB drive in my pocket. "Actually," I said quietly, standing up, "Dad left a message for exactly this moment." I walked to the podium, where Victoria stood triumphant. Would everyone like to hear what he had to say? Victoria's perfectly painted smile faltered as I connected my laptop to the church's sound system. "What are you talking about, Emily? I have the legal documents right here." Then Dad's voice filled the church, strong and clear despite his illness, and Victoria's face turned ghost white. "But let me back up and explain how we got here. I'm Emily Chun, 35, a digital forensics expert specializing in video authentication. My father, David Chun, built a successful technology consulting firm from scratch after immigrating to America in his 20s. Mom died when I was 12 after a long battle with cancer. Dad threw himself into raising me and growing the business. We were a great team. He taught me everything he knew about technology and business ethics, while I helped modernize the company's systems. Victoria entered our lives 8 years ago, when Dad was 58 and she was 36. She was a client services manager at one of our partner firms, all perfect hair and calculated charm. Dad was immediately smitten. "She makes me feel young again," he told me when they started dating. "And she's so interested in the business." Of course she was interested in the business. Chun Consulting had grown into a $50 million company with offices in 3 cities. But I kept my concerns to myself, wanting Dad to be happy. They married after a whirlwind 6-month courtship. Victoria immediately started suggesting changes to both the business and our family dynamics. "Emily doesn't need to be at every executive meeting," she'd say. "Let her focus on her little computer projects." Those little computer projects had helped protect our clients from millions in potential fraud, but Victoria never bothered to understand what I actually did. She was too busy redecorating the family home and pushing Dad to update his will. The first sign of real trouble came 2 years ago, when Dad was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. Victoria's attitude shifted subtly, less affectionate wife, more calculating investor. She started bringing Dad documents to sign during his chemo sessions, when the medications left him confused and compliant. She rearranged his home office, accidentally misplacing important papers. She tried to convince him to step down as CEO and hand control of the company to her. What Victoria didn't know was that Dad had seen through her facade months before his diagnosis. During one of his clear moments in the hospital, he confided in me. "I made a mistake, Emily," he said quietly. "Not with the marriage. That was my choice to make. But I've seen how she looks at the company financials when she thinks no one's watching. Promise me you'll protect what we built." That's when we started creating video records of Dad's true wishes during his lucid moments, with medical staff present to verify his mental state. We documented everything: his intended distribution of assets, his plans for the company's future, his growing awareness of Victoria's manipulation. "The irony is, I would have provided for her anyway," Dad said during one recording session. "She didn't need to scheme. But she showed her true character, and now we need to protect the business and our employees." I hired security to monitor Dad's hospital room, documenting every visitor and every document Victoria brought for signing. We installed cameras in his home office, tracking her late-night searches through his files. The most damning evidence came 3 days before Dad's death. Victoria brought a notary she knew personally to the hospital during Dad's highest medication period. Security footage showed her practically moving Dad's hand to sign a new will. What she didn't realize was that Dad had already legally recorded his final wishes, with multiple witnesses and rock-solid documentation. The video playing now in the church was just one piece of extensive evidence we'd gathered. If you're watching this, Dad's voice resonated through the speakers. "It means Victoria has tried to present a fraudulent will at my funeral." Predictable, really. She never could resist a dramatic moment. Victoria's hands trembled as she gripped her paperwork. The notary she'd brought with her began edging toward the exit. "I've known for some time that my second marriage was a mistake," Dad continued. "Not because of the age difference or what others might think, but because Victoria proved herself untrustworthy with something more important than money, the legacy we built to help others." The video showed Dad sitting in his hospital room, alert and composed despite his illness. A doctor and 2 nurses were visible in the background, along with a timestamp and certification of his mental clarity. "The will Victoria is probably holding right now, the one she convinced me to sign during my highest medication periods, is invalid. My true final wishes were legally recorded and witnessed 3 months ago." Dad went on to outline exactly how his assets should be distributed. Majority ownership of Chin Consulting would go to me, with significant shares designated for our long-term employees. The family home would be sold, with proceeds split between local charities. Victoria would receive a reasonable settlement, contingent on not contesting the valid will. "And Victoria," Dad concluded, looking directly into the camera, "I forgive you for the manipulation. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting you destroy what we spent decades building." As Dad's image faded, the church was silent except for Victoria's rapid breathing. Her lawyer, who had been standing smugly beside her, now looked distinctly uncomfortable. "This is ridiculous," Victoria finally sputtered. "That video could be fake. Emily works with computers, she could have." "That's why we had everything certified," I said calmly, nodding to my colleague Sarah, who stood up holding a thick binder. "Every video is authenticated by multiple experts. The valid will has been verified by 3 separate legal firms. Would you like to see the documentation?" Victoria's lawyer grabbed her arm before she could respond. "We need to talk," he muttered. "Outside. Now." They hurried out of the church, Victoria's heels no longer clicking quite so confidently against the marble floor. The funeral proceeded as Dad would have wanted, a celebration of his life and the company he built. The aftermath was both easier and harder than I expected. Victoria's lawyer, after reviewing our evidence, advised her to accept the settlement and not contest the will. She didn't take the advice well. "This is elder abuse," she screamed during a meeting with his state lawyers. "David wasn't in his right mind. Emily manipulated him." "Mrs. Chun," the lead attorney said calmly, "we have extensive documentation of your husband's mental state when he made his final arrangements. We also have security footage of you attempting to obtain signatures while he was heavily medicated. Would you like us to submit that footage as evidence in court?" Victoria's resistance crumbled when she realized how thoroughly we'd documented her actions. The notary she'd brought to the hospital, facing potential criminal charges, agreed to testify about Victoria's instructions to just get it signed, no matter what. The valid will was executed exactly as Dad had planned. Chin Consulting's ownership was transferred smoothly, with key employees receiving their promised shares. The family home sold quickly, the proceeds funding scholarships for immigrant students studying technology. Victoria received her settlement, generous by any reasonable standard, though far less than the fortune she'd tried to steal. She moved to another state, later trying to spin a narrative about being pushed out by a vindictive stepdaughter. "Let her tell whatever stories she wants," my Uncle Robert advised. "Anyone who matters knows the truth." The company thrived under the new ownership structure. Dad's emphasis on ethics and innovation remained our guiding principles. Several clients, after learning how we'd protected the company from Victoria's attempted takeover, entrusted us with even more sensitive projects. "Your father would be proud," Sarah told me during our first post-transition board meeting. "Not just of saving the company, but of how you handled it. No drama, no public fights, just clear evidence and professional consequences." The video from Dad's funeral became part of our company's ethics training. New employees watched it to understand the importance of documenting everything and maintaining clear boundaries between personal and professional matters. Victoria made one last attempt at challenging the will, hiring a new lawyer who claimed to have evidence of coercion. When presented with our complete documentation, including footage of her own misconduct. The lawyer withdrew from the case. "I've never seen such thorough preparation," he admitted privately. "You knew exactly what she would try." "We knew who she was," I replied simply. "Dad taught me to hope for the best but document everything." A year after the funeral, we held a ceremony dedicating our new headquarters building in Dad's name. The lobby features a wall of screens showing the company's history, including subtle lessons about integrity and consequences. Victoria's settlement money didn't last long. Through industry contacts, we heard she tried to replicate her scheme with another wealthy older man. But a quick Google search revealed her history, ending that relationship before she could establish any legal claims. The notary who helped her with the fraudulent will lost her license. The investigation revealed a pattern of questionable practices, suggesting Victoria wasn't her first client to request flexible documentation. Dad's video message has been viewed by law enforcement and estate planning experts as a model of how to protect assets from potential fraud. Several legal firms now recommend similar recordings for clients with complex family situations. The family home, before its sale, yielded more evidence of Victoria's plans. Hidden in her personal files were documents showing she'd been planning Dad's retirement and her takeover of the company even before his cancer diagnosis. "She had everything mapped out," my Uncle Robert said as we reviewed the papers. "Except for one thing, she underestimated both David's wisdom and your preparation." The settlement Victoria received came with strict conditions: no involvement in company affairs, no contact with employees, and no public statements about the will or inheritance. Any violation would trigger significant financial penalties. She tested these conditions once, attempting to contact board members with claims of having inside information about company operations. The resulting penalty payment significantly reduced her settlement balance. Chen Consulting expanded its services to include helping other family businesses protect themselves from similar situations. Our digital forensics department, once my little computer projects, became a leader in documenting and preventing inheritance fraud. Dad's legacy grew beyond what even he had envisioned. The scholarship fund created from a house sale helped dozens of students pursue technology careers. Several returned to work for us, bringing fresh perspectives and innovations. Victoria's final communication came through her latest lawyer, a demand to remove her images from our company history wall. We responded with documentation showing all photos were taken at public company events, legally requiring no consent for display. "She still doesn't understand," Sarah observed. "This isn't about her. It's about protecting what David built." The video that exposed Victoria's scheme remains secured in our corporate archives, a reminder that sometimes the best defense against fraud is careful documentation and patience. Dad's voice continues to guide us, not just through his recorded message, but through the principles he instilled. In the end, Victoria's dramatic funeral performance became just another chapter in our company's history, a lesson about integrity, preparation, and the importance of protecting what matters. Dad's true legacy lives on in the business he built and the values he taught me to defend. The church where everything unfolded hosts an annual memorial service for Dad, attended by employees, clients, and scholarship recipients. Victoria's empty threats have been replaced by stories of innovation, ethics, and positive impact. Dad's final message wasn't just about exposing fraud. It was about choosing the right path even when facing manipulation. The company continues to grow, guided by his principles of integrity and careful documentation. And somewhere, I like to think Dad is smiling, knowing that his preparation and trust in me helped preserve not just his assets, but his vision for technology that serves with integrity. Victoria's dramatic exit from that funeral podium marked not an ending, but a continuation of his true legacy. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.